Let's go around and identify ourselves as the Rules Committee meeting.
Jennifer Johnston.
Amy Dubosky just visiting.
Dick Trady.
Daryl Hess.
And Elby's around here somewhere. Okay, you got in front of yourself the agenda. There's no approval required. There's nothing there. There's no minutes of previous meetings, no old business, new business. We've got, under 6A, we've got A1 and A2. Acceptance of Community Council bylaws filed and conforming. We have a Kootenai Valley Community Council and Mid-Hillside Community Council. Those are conforming. Any comments on them, or do we want to move to accept them?
Let's move to accept.
I do have one comment, if it's okay. I'll talk fast, Jennifer. When you get an opportunity, read through the Kootenai Community Council bylaws, not today. I worked with Rick Sennett, who's the council president, and there are smaller, more rural councils, and they came up with some great ideas on how to hold meetings in here. They actually allow electronic meetings, other than for the meetings where they elect officers.
So they can Skype.
They can Skype, they can do Facebook.
I think it's great.
And so I think it may be a model. We're going to talk it several
For
months
smaller
down the
community
road to
councils.
see how it works. So it's just something I think you should look at, because I think it's a way that some of the other smaller, more rural councils can conform to the code, and it's convenient for
I
that.
think it's time, technology changes, time change, we need to change.
Yes.
Kind of like taxi cabs.
Uber all.
Anyway, a vote on this, any objection to it? Voting is unanimous, we've accepted the bylaws for both the Kootenai Valley and Mid-Hillside. Item number 2 is information regarding community councils, bylaws filed and non-conforming, which is B1 and B2, Rabbit Creek Community Council, and Fairview Community Council. Daryl.
Rabbit Creek Community Council, I passed out a copy of the email I sent to the clerk's office and to Nancy Peace after reviewing the bylaws, and I offered to meet with her to discuss the issues, but there were several non-conformities in the bylaws. For business, corporate, nonprofit memberships, they talk about sole representative. The code says there shall be a designated representative and may be an alternate. So saying sole representative, I think, doesn't conform to the code. They have a couple sections, a section in there that conflicts, where it talks about immediately after proving eligibility, they're signed in and they can vote, but there's a requirement then later in that same section that says they have to attend one meeting in the previous 12 months. So those two, the requirements conflict. It's a simple fix. They don't have any verbiage in there that says the meeting and member attendance roster shall be used only for council business. The code says that there be provisions in the bylaws for the management of the council's finances, including regular status reports and an annual report or a compilation of status reports. They only require an annual report, so they can do it monthly or quarterly, but they have to have regular reports other than the annual. There's a few other ones in there. It doesn't have the prohibition against endorsing candidates, which is required by the code. The bottom one is something I never ran across before, so I met with Julia today, and it's a membership application. Their bylaws require that a member is registered and is eligible to vote at all general and special membership meetings immediately after proving eligibility under Article 4, Section 1A by submitting an acceptably completed and signed membership form to the treasurer membership coordinator. But in the code it says you are a member if you meet the definition for membership and you sign in at a meeting. So I think Julia and I, there's a way there can be a compromise that will work.
Daryl, do they require a credit card too with the membership application?
But,
Credit check, yeah.
Julie and I think that there's a way that we could come up with a good compromise for them, because you can, you sign in if you meet the criteria, but they could ask for proof of eligibility in the form that the council that would be the one.
Jennifer, this is one of your big councils.
So it's just,
What's your guidance, ma'am?
Let's follow Mr. Hess's,
Yes.
support him in his efforts to work with the Rabbit Creek.
Make it amenable to us?
We'll work with them and find a compromise that'll meet the requirements of the code and allow them to ask for verification.
Julia?
Yeah, one of the other things that Daryl and I talked about is it struck me that that group is innovative enough that they could be having a membership application, which in addition to signing off the firstborn and all of that, would say that sort of in keeping with posted rules of conduct at the assembly meeting, that you agree not to chew gum or snuff or I don't know, all
Not to
different kinds of
disagree
things,
with other
not to,
members.
yeah. And so one of the things that Daryl and I talked about is that there is some of that could, reasonable rules of decorum for any council that is challenged in that area could be part of the sign-up process. That by signing below, right on the roster, and that doesn't really have to be
The only time reflecting these
incorporated.
times.
So it was food for a lot of interesting thought, anyway, in the few minutes that Daryl and I had for that.
Any other comments on, any comments or questions?
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry I was late. Nothing on Robert Creek, but I have another comment though. I'd like to
Okay.
make.
On Rabbit Creek, Darryl, why don't you keep working with them if you would, with Julia, and next week come back and tell us where they're at.
Okay.
We appreciate it. We'll be down to Fairview, which is one of your community councils, Mr.
That's
Hess.
where I live. And I think the council president, Chris Johnson, expressed the concerns of the council, or I believe it was Harry Mead, their FCC representative, at the FCC meeting that was held here in City Hall, expressed concern with the revision to the ordinance that allows non-resident property owners to have a designated and an alternate representative. And when the committee, the Assembly Community Council committee held meetings, there were various members of community councils that thought it would be a good way to have non-resident absentee landlords represented. So it was actually an idea that came from some of those in attendance. I can see where some people would have issues with this, and the argument here is that it gives non-resident property owners special rights that resident property owners don't have. But if you're a resident property owner, you're presumed to be a member because you're a resident. And so it can be pretty confusing if you say, oh, I live here, but I want to be signed up as a resident property owner so I can designate an alternate representative. And to the argument that it gives special rights, as a resident member, there is nothing in the code that prevents you from giving your proxy your vote. There's a prohibition against proxy memberships for resident property.
Not proxy votes.
But there's nothing, if you're going to be out of town and there's an election of officers or an important issue that you want to have, vote on, and you're not there, through their bylaws, they can allow a proxy vote, is the way I read the code. I think I'm correct, Julia. Matter of fact, there's one council that submitted non-conforming bylaws they're working on now, and they're going to allow proxy votes, but the members have to have that proxy signed and notarized. But they are going to allow it. And reading the code, it says there shall be no alternate memberships or proxy memberships for residents. But it doesn't say, there's no prohibition against proxy votes. So I would argue that residents, including resident property owners, do have an option available to them, but the councils would have to enact that in their bylaws.
Can you still work with Fairview on that?
Sure, and I think this makes 10 councils that the committees approved their bylaws and sent to the assembly. You guys just revised this ordinance in February. Let's give it some time, a year from now, 2 years from now, year and a half from now, we could look at it, and if there's a problem with this part of the code, it could be changed. But these councils that have already been approved, the ones I've been working with that are ready to submit their bylaws, everybody'd have to go back and redo them
Yeah.
less than a year after you revise the code. So let's see if there is a problem before. That's my recommendation.
I think it's a wish of the body if you talk to Fairview and see what we can work out. I'm going to understand where you're coming from on this. done the member comments. Anything, Jennifer, Amy, Elby?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I'm sure everybody saw that email.
No, we're not responsible for SAP. Sorry.
I'm sorry, I can't even talk. I'm sure everybody saw that email, the Turnigan Community Council email where somebody in the council filed charges against somebody else.
I missed that one.
Oh, yeah.
It
A
involves,
restraining order or something?
it involves Mr. Akers.
Oh, yes, I did.
Okay, I think they did because they were tired of listening to it.
I did
You know, I
see
mean,
that
as an
email.
official report to the police.
Well, they made a thing, I went to the Federation meeting and he got up and said, hey, this is what's going on, can you help me? And their Federation said, no, we can't. So,
No, I just thought it was interesting, and that's the only reason why I brought it up. Anyway,
He met with
thank you,
me
Mr. Chairman.
for an hour and a half last week. And,
Mhm.
you know, I sympathize with where he's coming from. You know, I read the chain of emails and they weren't threatening. You know, maybe somebody.
They weren't.
Yeah, maybe somebody took it as threatening and they filed a report with the police. They wanted to have his email address blocked so he couldn't email them. And APD said, or ACS told her that to block his email, you have to file a police report. So she really filed the police report to get his email blocked. I don't think she really thought she was being threatened. And he's worried that it's on his record. And I said, you know, it's not on court view, it's not on your record. They are not going to investigate it. But it is one of those issues with community councils that, I don't know, I asked him, I actually invited him to go up to the clerk's office and ask to be on the agenda for his next rules committee meeting. He had some ideas and wanted the assembly to potentially, you know, enact some regulations for councils. And I said, well, you really need to bring this to the rules committee. And he said, well, he would think about it.
not yet. But you know, we have 38 community councils, we have so many different personalities.
Can I go back and make a comment?
You do whatever you want to
Thank
do.
you. I just wanted to say thank you so much to this committee because as members of the community council committee, we worked very hard to get these passed and to engage the councils. And I think what I'm seeing in my community is a real pride and a real excitement that the Assembly is taking a proactive role in acknowledging community councils. And, you know, I just wanted to say thank you.
You're welcome. And I think it's really good that the Assembly's taking an active role, thanks to you and Amy and whoever else is on that committee. Because frankly, you know, the charter says it's our responsibility to you know, have community councils. So, thank you.
We're trying to reinvigorate the community council, I think we've done it. Just make all of it, Jennifer, you, me, him, Elvie, I think we're getting this done. We're reinvigorating community councils. I know my wife is writing the bylaws for the Campbell Park Community Council this weekend. And her and I have a discussion on 16-year-olds voting.
Oh, I bet she's winning.
She wants 18-year-olds only.
I know she does.
And proof of birth. So we're gonna have a lively discussion because it'll come up in our.
Happy
community
wife,
council.
happy life, Mr.
I'm voting
Trainee.
against 18-year-olds. I want 16-year-olds.
Good for you.
Mr.
In
Chairman.
fact, I was told Fairview went to 16.
Just to follow up on what Ms. Dombrowski and Ms. Gray Jackson said, what I've heard from the councils is they may think it's a pain in the butt sometimes that we're communicating 5 or 6 times or having multiple conversations to get their bylaws correct. But they really like that there's follow through from the assembly this time. And the last time the code was rewritten, it said that the assembly was supposed to accept the bylaws, and it never happened. So I think they appreciate that the assembly, like you said, it shows that the assembly is reaching out to the community councils, and they are under the legislative branch of government. They're part of legislative branch of government.
Well, Darryl, not to inflate your head, but what the community council really enjoy is your ability to reach out to every community council. You've read all the bylaws, you know the bylaws, and they really appreciate that. You're a good source for it. Just keep in mind when Sandy contacts you this week, I don't know you.
But I know Sandy very well. So she has my cell number. I'm sure I'll hear from her.
You probably will. Anything, Julia?
No, I'm just excited that this is moving and that Daryl, we have these innovative and kind of exciting issues to think about. Like what you said, I think it's all part of that engaging and rejuvenating something that was sort of
Lost
put on
out the
back-
last time.
Yeah, put on the back burner.
Thank you.
I'm waiting to
And-
see those banners.
The banners?
Go back into Lusac Library.
Yeah, we used to have a banner for every community council day
They
lying
were-
inside the Lusac Library. And I'd like to get us back to that point in time, because we had, some of them still exist. I think you guys remember, don't you, Elder?
Oh, yeah. They were
Remember,
cloth,
Jennifer?
and they were about a quarter of the size of that screen, and they hung around on the inside of the...
Each one was distinctive to that community council. And it was really nice because it gave them a sense that they mattered when we were considering their resolutions coming forward to us, because there they were. So we didn't do it again.
They were made for the Noosa conference in the 80s.
Well, they
Okay,
kind
audience
of
participation.
cut the inside
Anything,
of the
Eugene?
change.
Permission to speak?
Huh?
Permission to speak?
You don't have to have permission. What do you want?
Okay, just want to clarify what's permitted.
Can you come forward and talk a little louder?
Okay.
Please. Some of us are getting old. Me?
Eugene Haberman, for the record. I represent myself. Footnote, one concern is, on this meeting, it was just approximately 48-hour notice for the meeting. As you see, I'm the only one from the public here. There was one that walked out a few minutes earlier. We only had about 16 minutes, a bunch of empty chairs. The public needs to know if you're going to have a meeting, give a reasonable notice, and 48 hours is not, I don't consider reasonable at all, and I don't think others would either, including the public. And I know out in the borough, they don't do 48-hour notices, okay, in monitoring from Palmer and the Matsu Borough. But I'm noticing still a pattern of these 48-hour notice meetings. And I also should note that you're not the only one that's doing that scenario. I've seen the Election Commission, Anchorage Election Commission, having 48-hour notice of meetings. And that has made it very difficult for public to know about the meetings. In order for me to catch your meetings, I have to be on your website. You're doing a 48-hour notice every day, and just in case you pop in a announcement of a meeting like this one.
We appreciate you being on our website, and it's nice to know somebody's listening to us. In deference to us, I did announce this to the Federation, which are representatives for all the community councils attend that on Wednesday night. So they knew.
But that's still not a reasonable notice, though I know this has been a situation that continues. Another thing to point out as far as the meeting is, it's still a pattern in almost all occasions that I see out there. Some don't do it in Anchorage, okay? Some bodies seem to put the stuff, is that agenda is out here at the meeting before the meeting starts. The public doesn't know what's going to be discussed at the meeting. So how, if you want to catch the public's eye and say, hey, I need to be there, of particular interest of items, just like your assembly meetings, you put it on there, the public sees, oh, wait, I better be over there, or prepare for testimony or whatever. The public wouldn't know about this thing. And this has been pretty much a consistent pattern I see of these boards and commissions. Some don't do that. The Transportation Commission, in Anchorage case, does put the notice out way in advance. In most cases, I see reasonable notice, and then later on, a few days before, they attach the agenda for the item. Now, agenda is not enough, because agenda just says this, but the agenda is, as you know, an assembly packets of information like that was here. So how does the public be able to address and review that and say to you before you make a decision? And then here's, you had audience participation at the end of the meeting, whereas you already made decisions on these items before the public spoke.
Thank you,
very
Gene.
much.
Thank you.
Appreciate the comments. Motion to adjourn? We're adjourned. Thanks for being here.